Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front. I'm Mark Martin. In this edition, a special focus on suicide and mental health in the military. A health crisis is devastating America's military. It's not cancer or heart disease, it's suicide. For several years in a row, the suicide rate among our servicemen and women has gone up. CBN National Security Correspondent Eric Phillips has the story.
Major John Ruaco served as a Marine Corps pilot for 15 years. A really good one, according to his wife, Kim, and the accolades from her don't stop there.
My husband was a really great dad and husband and a superior Marine and helicopter pilot, but he battled, depression and post-traumatic stress and unresolved trauma and grief.
A battle he lost in 2005.
I had, at the time, 2 boys. They were 8 and 10 years old. So really was thrown into this world of surviving a military suicide loss.
A social worker by profession, Kim often sensed subtle changes in her husband's behavior during phone calls.
I asked him directly if he was thinking about suicide, if he was feeling so badly that he was thinking about suicide, and he said, "I would never do that to you and the boys." And then he killed himself a couple hours later.
John became part of a growing statistic of active military and veterans who have committed suicide. The latest Pentagon research shows increases over the last 5 years, with more than 500 military suicides in 2018 alone. A Veterans Administration report indicates some 6,000 veteran suicides each year between 2005 and 2017.
Men slightly more likely to die by suicide, and women veterans twice as likely.
Dr. Heather Kelly is Director of Military and Veterans Health Policy at the American Psychological Association.
It's a complicated problem and a lot of different reasons for different people. About half of those military service members who die by suicide have never deployed, much less seen combat. So they're subject to life stress that has nothing to do with their service, just like the rest of us.
If you don't know what the center of your back is.
The culture continues to be the biggest battle in suicide prevention within the military.
But there is help. After her husband's death, Ruaco started the Assistance Program for Survivors, or TAPS.
When there is a suicide, they're immediately connected to us. And so we're able to then reach out to those survivors, assess their needs, stabilize them with trauma, with mental health issues, with suicide risk, and then help them with suicide-specific issues like, how do you tell your children?
On the prevention side, the American Bible Society has rolled out the God Understands campaign to help service members who are battling depression and other mental health challenges. It consists of testimonies from people like Brian Flannery, who attempted suicide while in the Army.
Spoiler alert, I failed. Almost every day, at the start of my day, I remember sitting in that empty barracks room, and I let myself feel the emotions again. The hopelessness, the pain, the anguish. And then I look around at my life today, right? And I see how God truly, he didn't put a Band-Aid on it, but he truly restored my soul.
So that emphasis behind the God Understands is for people to listen to other stories, to realize that they're not the only one that's feeling like they failed. They're not the only one that ever walked this journey by themselves.
Grosclose says social distancing only magnifies feelings of isolation, and that could cause the already growing suicide number among service members to spike. He says God Understands provides a unique human and divine connection.
Is this what we need to stave off that trend?
The way of ending veteran suicide is with Jesus.
Eric Phillips, our national security correspondent, joins us now. Eric, suicide is always tragic, but especially when you think of it with our military and being brought on possibly by what they go through defending our freedoms. You touched on the efforts by the Pentagon. Are they seeing results?
Well, what we talked about in that piece was how the Pentagon is tracking this growing trend of military and veteran suicides. And unfortunately, they're seeing it go in the wrong direction for a number of reasons, not the least of which being these servicemen and women feeling like they're not fulfilling their own jobs in the military the way that they should be. One of the main reasons, or one of the main causal factors, I should say, behind death by suicide is feeling like a failure. I didn't do everything I should do for my country. I didn't do everything I should do in service. My comrade died on my watch or when I was in his or her vicinity. And so a lot of times they feel like they failed their country, they failed their military unit, and these deep feelings of despair, loneliness, isolation develop into depression, anxiety, PTSD, and ultimately deteriorate into death by suicide.
You say you really saw how elusive anxiety and depression can be, and Kim Ruako, the widow in your story, even as a social worker, alluded to that. What did you learn? Tell us a little bit more what you learned from their story.
Well, I mean, here you have, as you said, a social worker. And as you listen to the story, I'm sure you heard her say that she directly asked her husband if he was considering suicide. And he said no, only to do so hours later. A lot of times it's hard for our servicemen and women and our veterans to admit that they have a problem, or at least to admit it openly to others who could possibly provide some help for them. This is a type of thing where once you feel that sense of isolation and like no one else around you would understand, no one else has ever felt this way, it's not something that you necessarily want to discuss openly. But if you don't discuss it openly, then you can't get the necessary help. And if you don't get the necessary help, it's probably not going to end well. As was the case with Kim Ruako's husband, he had everything going for him. According to all accounts, he was good at so many different things, including being a husband and a father. But that wasn't enough to stave off these demons that he faced on a regular basis. And that is what we're seeing in terms of that elusive nature. It may seem that the person has it all together. It may seem that they're doing just fine. But that's why it's so important to check in on our servicemen and women on a regular basis to really notice those subtle differences in behavior and in action, and to make sure, most of all, that they are not feeling isolated. When you're a part of a sense of community, it's much harder for these feelings to set in and take hold.
And quickly, Eric, you also mentioned the faith-based ministry, God Understands. What did you learn about the role of faith in all of this and how churches and Christians can help?
Well, it's a very interesting scenario, Mark, because faith is actually what's known as a protective factor. In other words, those who are faithful, have belief in faith, no matter what faith it is, are a lot less likely to die by suicide. Because what happens is you have that faith or that belief in a higher power. Of course, in our case, it's a belief in Jesus Christ, the Son of God. But whatever it is that you might believe, when you place your faith in a higher power, something that's not here, that's earthly, bound by our laws and everything else that occurs here on earth, you place your faith elsewhere, that's something that tends to give you hope. It's something that tends to give you peace. It's something that tends to give you a sense of serenity when all else is falling apart. And that's why faith is so important in so many different realms, but definitely where our military is concerned as well.
I like how the man in your piece ended it with, the hope is in Jesus. All right, Eric Phillips, thank you for that report and your insight, sir.
Welcome.
And when we come back, David Brody has an exclusive interview with Second Lady Karen Pence about a new initiative to help veterans and prevent suicides. Stay with us.
This election night, with a country divided and America's future hanging in the balance, go to a place you can trust. CBN News. CBN News presents an election night special with live coverage starting at 7 p.m. Get live updates on each of the campaigns, plus analysis on the shifting balance of power. Watch November 3rd at 7 p.m. on the CBN News Channel or download the CBN News app. CBN News, because truth matters.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Nepali Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
We're discussing the realities of suicide among America's men and women in uniform and veterans of the armed forces. Our David Brody got an exclusive interview with Karen Pence, wife of Vice President Mike Pence, about a new program coming from the Trump administration to help.
An enduring and pressing emergency, the rise in veteran suicide.
A tragedy that seemingly just won't go away.
We're here today to confront a solemn crisis.
President Trump took steps to help, signing an executive order last year offering a roadmap of sorts to help stop the heartbreak. Second Lady Karen Pence serves as the lead ambassador for the effort known as Prevents.
I saw my role as a way to say, let's end the stigma and let's start the conversation. You know, David, everybody has risk factors for suicide, every single one of us.
The numbers are hard to fathom. Each year, some 47,000 suicides across America, more than 6,000 of them veterans. That translates to roughly 20 veterans a day, a rate that doubles that of the general population. Too many stories like Justin Miller, a vet who took his life 2 years ago, leaving a grieving family behind.
He went out to his car. He looked at his phone. He saw the text from my dad saying, "I love you, come home." And at some point, he took his own life.
There's help for our veterans. Yep. There's help for Americans. We actually have things we're putting into place. We want people to talk to each other. And you know, part of talking to each other and reaching out is sharing your faith.
This weekend, the administration is looking to the faith community.
The research supports that there is a connection between people having an involvement in their faith community and having less opportunity or less desire to commit suicide.
In an effort called REACH, the call is going out this weekend for houses of worship to directly address suicide. They hope it will be the subject of sermons, feature information about prevention in bulletins, and encourage those in attendance to take a written pledge and commit to change the national conversation around mental health and suicide.
One of the main points involved in the REACH campaign is letting people know their risk factors. And one of the risk factors right now is isolation.
Indeed, with COVID-19, the fear of the unknown can be unsettling for all of us.
All of us are dealing with some kind of anxiety or pressure or fear. And so what better time to say, it's okay to say you're not okay.
Since COVID-19 began, Karen Pence's team has pushed a mental health checklist that includes asking yourself how you're doing, talk to family members, reach out to the suicide prevention line if you need help, and try and give yourself a joyful break.
What are some things that, make you feel happier or kind of calm you down? Schedule those into your day. If it's reading or gardening or cooking or praying or painting.
The Second Lady telling me her hope, especially in these desperate times, comes from above. This town doesn't give many people hope in terms of what Congress does. But what can you say from a faith perspective as it relates to hope and what you want them to know about?
You know, hope really is the key. And, you know, for me, as you know, I'm a Christian. And so for me, that's where I get my hope. And I do think that when we're all low, sometimes the only person who's there for me is the Lord. And so when you actually can introduce someone to that aspect and to say, you know what, there is hope. There is hope, and there is a way past this struggle that you're in right now.
And it all begins with conversation on a topic that many would rather avoid. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Welcome back to On the Home Front. Doctors are learning more about brain injuries that occur from repeated hits to the head, even the indirect hits that come from being near explosives going off like in a war zone. Here's CBN News medical reporter Lori Johnson on how these injuries can possibly contribute to suicides.
For years, doctors believed only professional football players got CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, the brain disease connected with extreme depression, violence, and impulsivity.
It could present with changes in personality, mood disorders, becoming a drug addict, an alcoholic. You have a much higher risk of engaging in self-harm, attempting suicides, and even committing suicides.
At first, experts believed concussions caused CTE, but later discovered it goes way beyond that.
Concussions do not cause CTE. What causes CTE is blows to your head with or without symptoms, with or without a helmet. Helmets do not protect your brain from CTE.
He says that includes football helmets as well as military helmets. What's more, scientists say CTE can come from blows to the head with or without concussion, whether on the gridiron, in the home, or on the battlefield.
There is no safe blow to the human head.
CTE can only be diagnosed after a person dies by examining the brain. Boston University's CTE Center houses hundreds of brains donated by family members who suspected their loved one had a brain disorder. This includes families of deceased soldiers.
20% of our cases, the donors have never had a witnessed, diagnosed, or reported concussion in their lives. yet have CTE at the end of the day.
Dr. Lee Goldstein and his colleagues found CTE in nearly all former football players they studied. What's possibly more disturbing is they also found the condition in brains of military veterans exposed to explosions, but who had not suffered a concussion. That raises the possibility that battle-worn soldiers may have CTE rather than the often diagnosed post-traumatic stress.
Very common that these folks come back. They are not the same, and in some very real sense, they are not the same person they were before. In fact, the front part of the brain may be damaged, and in that respect, they really are different people.
According to Dr. Goldstein, there are likely many other types of people beyond vets and athletes suffering from this brain trauma.
The homeless populations, people who are chronically mentally ill, people who are at risk for domestic abuse, intimate partner abuse, child abuse, elder abuse, incarcerated populations, populations at risk for violence, people in poverty.
CTE can only be confirmed after death. And while there is not yet a cure, scientists are developing a test to diagnose it in the living, which could lead to a treatment. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
And our medical reporter, Lori Johnson, joins me now. Welcome, Lori.
Nice to be here, Mark.
Well, so many military personnel, they struggle with mental health issues, and automatically it's chalked up to being traumatic stress, post-traumatic stress. Are doctors saying that there might be something else?
Absolutely. And so we need to be very careful about this because the symptoms are almost the same, PTSD and CTE. What am I talking about? So many of these military families know exactly what I'm talking about, where their loved one comes back from battle and they're a different person. They have impulsivity issues. They fly into a rage for no reason. This isn't the way they used to be. They're extremely depressed, even suicidal. Many of them actually go through with suicide. We've seen the suicide rate increase. And so it might not be, people automatically assume it's PTSD. It might not, because those are the exact same symptoms as CTE. CTE can be caused by many blows to the head. And as you saw in the piece there, I was fortunate enough to go to the Boston CTE Center, where they, on mice, imitated exactly what happens to battlefield soldiers who are exposed to IEDs. So in the mice, they were exposed to one IED blast and they got CTE. And they didn't get a concussion. And right after the IED blast, these mice seemed perfectly fine. And then they looked at their brain post-mortem and found that they did have CTE. And so this is a very, very real possibility for military soldiers. The families of military people who have died, who were so strange and changed after they came back, many of them donated the brains of their loved one to the CTE Center. They had CTE.
What should a military person do, or their family, if they feel like that they fall into this category?
That's a great question. I would say contact the Boston CTE Center. I'm going to say it again, the Boston CTE Center. And there are just Google search, and there are ways to get in contact with them, and you can be part of their research, because this is very important research that's going on right now while people are still living. If you are a soldier or a relative of a soldier, you might want to, I know this is a very, very delicate, difficult thing to say, but it's the research that will cause science to move ahead. So consider donating your brain after you've died, or again, family members may want to consider donating the brain for research after one of their loved ones have died. That's the only way we learn. Is right now it can only be, it's like Alzheimer's. The only way you know for sure is by looking at the brain after people have died. But this research is leading to testing where people can be tested when they're living and be able to know whether it's PTSD or CTE. So it's really a good cause.
And finally, you've done some reporting on faith and prayer and mental health. What have you learned quickly?
I love how you end on a positive note, because yes, I interviewed an expert from Duke health center and very reputable. His name is Dr. Koenig, and he wrote a book called The Healing Power of Faith and testified on Congress about how faith, prayer, and other things like that are actually good for your mental health and your physical health. And they've done studies where people who have a faith and who pray regularly actually outlive, in general, atheists. So this is something that, helps people. And certainly we know as Christians that prayer works.
That's right. We're not meant to carry around all those burdens. We need to hand them to God.
Absolutely. And it's funny because the Bible talks about these things, about not worrying and, giving your problems, to cast your cares upon him because he cares for you. And then thousands of years later, scientists are like, that's actually true. We've proven it in a lab. And we Christians are like, I could have told you that.
There you go. There you go. All right. Our medical reporter, Lori Johnson, thanks for your report and
My
your
pleasure.
information. And we'll be right back.
This election night, with a country divided and America's future hanging in the balance, go to a place you can trust. CBN News. CBN News presents an election night special with live coverage starting at 7 p.m. Get live updates on each of the campaigns, plus analysis on the shifting balance of power. Watch November 3rd at 7 p.m. on the CBN News Channel or download the CBN News app. CBN News, because truth matters. Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man, come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
As we showed you earlier in our interview with Karen Pence, there's a new initiative from the White House called Prevents to help veterans and prevent suicide. Mrs. Pence told our David Brody that she believes faith plays a vital role in helping soldiers and their families navigate these challenges.
I do think that when we're all low, sometimes the only person who's there for me is the Lord. And so when you actually can introduce someone to that aspect and to say, you know what, there is hope. There is hope, and there is a way past this struggle that you're in right now.
A reminder before we go to keep our military and their families here on the home front in your prayers. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.